Hey, this is my buddy Harry. Say hi, Harry.
Hello.
Hey, we're going to be doing my staircase today. Let's get this. Let's have it take a look. Okay, I told my boss 25 years ago when we moved in that we were going to replace this wrought iron stairway, and today's the day we're going to do this. So Harry's an expert in this field, and we're going to have a good time today taking this one apart and putting in some wooden banisters and railing.
Okay, we're gonna take this rail down, but because it's L-shaped and it's difficult to get down the stairs, we could either cut it with a Sawzall or we could try to break the welds
Right.
over here. So I'm gonna try to break the welds, and I already started, so I'm gonna do that.
Perfect.
And it makes it a little easier.
Yep.
Take the screws out. Now, Bob, I cut a scrap piece of the post.
Okay.
Right, it's the same dimensions as the post, and this is what we're going to be using, this post here, for the bottom, because this is a 15-inch block post. So I just wanted to show you up for purposes. I used a scrap piece as a template, and I put it down. We're going to plumb up from the stairs. That's going to put the post in line, and we're going to scribe a little mark here, and that's exactly where the post is going to go in this area, 3 1/4 inches, because that's the size of the post.
Yep.
All right, 3 1/4 inches. And now we know that we're going to put a post in the corner over there, so we're just going to keep this in a straight line and put the scrap block right in the corner, line it up with the nosing here, and we're also going to scribe a line, and that's where we're going to cut this out, this corner, and drop the post down and secure it to the framing underneath.
Right. So we're gonna make a big notch in the end of the newel post, right?
We're going to notch the newel post, but that comes in later on. But for now, I just want to notch the nosing.
Okay.
Make sure you use your speed square.
Mm-hmm.
Get a nice straight line off of your nosing, and then the rest is done with a jigsaw, which is down there I didn't get yet.
Okay.
Have a clean acceptance of the post.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I cut a scrap piece of railing, which is the 60-10 colonial style rail that you chose. And this is the 10-inch block post. The reason why it's a 10-inch block post is because you have 10 inches of a block.
Yep. Makes
All right.
sense.
So now, since I've been doing this a long time, right here, normally, let me put this post on the edge. I know if I measure from the crown of the post 38 inches, that is going to give me the height of the rail, which is approximately 1.5 inches lower than the block, with a 36-inch baluster with 1.5 inches inside the block of wood there, the railing. It brings me down to 36 inches. Okay, so that's how I know.
Good.
So I'm going to change this because the sheetrock's not straight, it's crooked. So I'm going to compensate for that in my cut. So this is going to actually be 1 7/8, and this is actually going to be 3/4. Okay, so now this one, same principle. I want the same height because this post is going here. I'm going to measure again my 38 inches, just so I'm straight. 38 inches. And I'm going to measure this again. It is I'm using a funny tape measure. 8 1/8. 8 1/8. Okay. So this gets cut. So now, again, you take your lines. It's just easier to remember when everything is marked with a straight line.
Sure.
Okay. Stand it up so you can see what you're doing. Right? And then you measure from the sheetrock to the edge of the bull nose, which is 2 1/8. 2 3/16. So you measure 2 3/16 here. 1 7/8 and 3/4. So and that's it. Nice little beveled edge.
What took so long? That was 3 nanoseconds.
I cut it a little heavy, so if we have to adjust it, we can, and it's still within the height. This height here from this point to the top of the post is most important.
Yep.
So other than that, you really don't have to worry about it. So let's make this notch. I forgot to tell you, because of that 1/4 inch notch, we're gonna have to put a cut this way, because this is 2 and this is I'm sorry, this is 2 1/4 and this is 2. So I'll show you.
That's a taper because of the drywall.
Because of the riser sticking past the sheetrock.
Yeah, the riser's not plumb.
Right.
Right.
It's sticking out
Yeah.
from the sheetrock.
Right.
Ready?
Yep.
I cut this. I might have to cut a little bit off of that. Yeah, it's too. I took it out of retirement. Alright, so why is it not going in? Okay. I don't like the fact it's not going in. Why?
So what's
So we got to make sure it's plumb, and then I just got to screw it into the framing through the sheetrock and into the riser. I normally put one on the left, one on the right, and then one in the middle, like a triangle. That gives it strength front and back, left and right.
Yep.
So I'm going to glue it up and put this in.
Okay. Go.
We're going to put a little bit of glue in here. That's what I like to do. Just a touch. It keeps everything from moving. And put that in. And we're gonna put we'll start one screw over here. This is a number 12 7/32 taper drill bit with a 1/2 inch, 12 millimeter cutter. So this is gonna
Countersink and drill at the same time.
countersink and drill at the same time. And you can find these on Amazon. Home Depot sells them. Lowe's sells them. They're not that expensive, unless you buy a different brand, which is probably $40. So. Then we use my impact with a number 8 3-inch screw with a number 3 Phillips head. Paddle bit.
Okay.
And then just go in a little bit more, so it gives you more meat to grab if it didn't grab. So. On these 1/2-inch plugs, holes, I use 1/2-inch plugs, and I have a plug cutter.
Yeah.
I'm sure you used one of these before,
yeah,
right? So this is the same size as that, and we follow the grain, make sure the grain's going in the same direction, obviously, right? Tap it in. Tap it in, and I'm doing this chisel. Clean it up. And then I take my sander. I have a portable orbital vibrating sander. Working on the car. All right. So we're gonna put a little bit of, you taping?
Yep.
All right, we're putting a little bit of glue on the corner just to keep it from moving. I put glue on the drop.
Yep.
And we're gonna put this down. Like that. Wipe the glue off. So now I put this in, I cut the corner because the sheetrock bows out a little bit, and this bows out. So I got it to sit right. I checked it, it is plumb. It is plumb to the left. And it is plumb to the right there. So once I put the screw in, it'll suck it in more. So that'll be perfect, right where you want it.
Okay.
And it's in line with this other post. So what we're gonna do is put this one screw on the bottom. You could use a nail in that situation because this post is tied in with this rail, and this post, this rail is tied in with this post, so this post will never move.
Yep.
Because it's locked in by 4 sides. So sometimes I use a nail, sometimes I use a screw, but either way, it's not going to move. Okay, I'm checking to make sure this post is plumb, because you always have to check in case something shifts. I'm going to measure the corner of the wall, because this is where the rail is going to go to the post, and we have 77¼ inches. So I have to measure the rail and cut it to that distance. So again, I got to check for plumb left and right. You got to go that way a breath. Exactly 27 inches. So this rail is 27. This rail is 77¼ So now we have to do that. But before we do that, let's write 27.
Are we putting in the rail one first or the next post?
I'm going to cut the rail.
Okay.
We're going to finish the balconies.
Okay.
And then we're going to work down there because we're almost done. Hypothetically. Just double checking everything. So now we know this post is 3¼ inches And what we have to do is find the center, which is 1 5/8 of 3 1/4. So we measure, make a little mark, 1 5/8. Take your speed square on your nosing, flush with your nosing, and that's going to give you your plumb line for the wall. Okay, so we come over here and we put the square on the nosing, we make a little line, a little mark, and take the level and we plumb up, which is right there. So that's the center of your rail. So we have to notch the rail to go around this corner so we could secure it to the wall. Okay, what we're doing now is the center of the wall was like right here on the rail, and we had 3/8 of an inch to a half from the corner. So we're going to use this part of the rail as a return. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the rail this way and notch it to create a pocket to sit around the wall so we could secure it to the side. And normally I go about 2 1/2, 2 3/4 of an inch with a mitered return right here. So I'll show you.
Okay, I get that.
Okay. And by doing this, the way I can tell I get a straight line, you can take this if you want. Straight line is I line my rail up with the rail of the saw. So whether I cut left side or right side, I line my rail up perpendicular to this. That instead of measuring and measuring, that's how I eyeball it, and I get a nice clean cut. And I normally go 2 3/4 of an inch because I could cut a 45 off of this without interfering in my cut. Just like that. I just got to cut a little bit more off the bottom.
That's what we call insta-notch.
7 1/4. And that would be my rail. So I make my miter cut. Just do that.
That's your return.
That's my return on that rail. This is the other balcony rail, which is the 27 inch. And just like that. And then we, I don't have my extra piece of sandpaper, but I got to sand the hair that came off of that. All right, Bob. So now we notched it around the corner here, right? And I gave it a little bit more off the center because I wanted this to be a little thicker to accept the screw head. And then the height is approximately here, my 38 inches that I mentioned earlier in the video. So now I just want to make sure it fit without any problems. So we're going to take this down and I'm going to show you how we're going to lay the balusters out.
How to do the spacing.
To do the spacing.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, Bob, now we're going to lay out the spacing on the balusters for the nosing and the rail. So we know that the post is plumb. I don't know if that sheetrock corner is plumb, but regardless, it's going to give or take within 1/4 of an inch if it's a straight house. So the way I do this, you measure the distance from the sheetrock, right where that measure is, right? Not the base molding, not the shoe molding, from the sheetrock, that's the plumb wall. And then you measure to the post. And right now, I have 77.25 inches. So what we do to lay it out, because the spacing is 4 inch on center, you go to the nearest 4 increment of 12, which is 76. So now all you do is you add another inch for the 77, so that would be 5, and then you add the 1/4 inch, so it'll be 5 1/4. So half of 5 1/4 is 2 5/8. So now if you measure 2 5/8 from this post, and you go 4 all the way down every 4 inch increment, so it'll be 4, 8, 12, 16, down the line. When you get to that end, you should have 2 5/8 of an inch from that wall. That's 4 inches all the way down. That's why I don't like this tape measure, because it doesn't give you 4, 12 inch. It just keeps adding up.
You need a Stairmaster ruler.
You need the Stanley.
Yeah. I'm surprised they don't make a special one for stair guys.
Oh, there's a stick. I don't know. You probably know what it's called.
For lumber.
Yeah. What's that called?
I know it. I know where there is one right now too. It's for measuring board feet on a log.
Yes.
That thing. Yep.
Yeah. It has like a brass tip.
I think it's called a Sawyer's ruler. I'm not positive.
Is it? Yeah. I saw one for sale up in Stroudsburg one time. Probably like, I would say maybe last year. Plumb 2 5/8, and I am at 2 and just shy of 5/8.
Okay.
A 32nd shy of 5/8. So I'm just using the 4 inch on center, and I'm just transferring it onto the railing.
So this way we can drill it outside versus installing the railing and drilling up into the railing.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is a big mess.
Yeah. Well, the nosing we have no choice but to drill it in the house. But the rail outside is a definite. And the rail going down the stairs, because of the rake, it's called the rake.
Yep.
That has to be drilled in the house.
Okay.
And I'll show you why when we get to that point.
When the railing's already installed?
No.
No?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
But when we get to that point, I'll explain why we have to do it that way. All right, so now we're measuring this. Now we're going increment of 4, just like we did the other side. And right now, 4 is right here at 2 feet. And then you add another inch, 5 for 25, 6 for 26, and 3/4. So half of 6 3/4 is 3 3/8. So we measure 3 3/8 off the post, and then 4 inch increments, 4, 8, 12, 16. We're gonna flip the tape around, and we're gonna do 4. And then when you measure from this post to this line, you have 3 3/8. So what I did is I transferred it on the rail, because this is the same size as the plumb post. So that right there will be in order of the balusters when I lift it and put it up here.
Go.
What I like to do, Bob, is I like to make a mark in case the rail gets switched around. This X is going to go to the starting post, which this will be my starting post.
Okay.
So if I'm sanding it and I happen to flip it, and this is a little off in my measurement, that I know that my initial 3 3/8 is on this side. So that could be a little off depending whether the wall is plumb or not plumb.
Okay.
So that's why I do it. And then when I start drilling on this rail, there's a groove in here. It's hard to see, but there is a groove in here, which is the center line. So as long as you keep your drill bit on that center line,
Okay.
you
You
won't.
got a starting point.
You have a starting point, correct. And what I like to do is I like to go as deep as the shoulders of the drill bit. So that in return will bring me almost half of the depth of the rail, which is sufficient for the baluster.
Okay.
Okay? So then I hold it with my legs. And I don't like to use a drill press or anything because the rail is rounded, so it'll wobble when you're drilling.
Yeah.
So if I hold it secure with my legs and I drill down, and that's about the shoulders of the blade, and that gives me significant depth for the baluster.
I got to tell you one thing. I love the smell of oak in the morning.
I don't even smell it anymore, Bob.
Really? I love that smell.
I'm so used to it, I don't smell it anymore.
Cherry and oak. I
Yeah.
think that's such a great smell.
So that's pretty much it right there. So the holes are drilled.
Yeah.
We have to drill the nosing,
Yeah.
which is another 2, 4, 6 holes. And then we could start installing the balusters.
Okay.
So let's start drilling the nosing. Okay, so now we're going to start drilling the nosing. And this doesn't go all the way through. I'm sorry, this nosing is overhanging, so I'm not going to drill all the way through.
Right.
I'm only going to go down about a ½ inch.
That's for the length of the tenons.
All right, now I'm gonna cut the pins because I didn't drill all the way through the nosing on the small balcony.
Yep.
So I want to make sure it sits flush on the nosing here. So I'm gonna cut half of the pin off the baluster.
Go.
All right, Bob, so I'm gonna put a dab of glue just to keep the baluster from moving. And I'm gonna do this throughout the whole nosing, but we're gonna do this one section at a time. I cut the pins. This is not gonna stay unless it's tight, and it is tight. Good. So put these in. And I like using glue, a lot of guys don't, but it keeps the baluster from rattling over time. So a lot of guys pin nail it on the bottom into the nosing. I just like using glue. And if the glue joint breaks, which it shouldn't, then you could come back in and pin nail the bottom. All right, so now balusters are in. There's my X, goes up against this post. And I put it up here, line it up, and that is right there. And when you measure, you should have 37 inches. See, 37 inches.
Yep.
I like to go an inch higher than code. Code is 36 inches minimum. The reason I like doing that is because if they decide to put carpet down, you're still within code because the carpet will raise it up 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. So if I go 37, I'm still safe in code. I like to eyeball it when I secure my post to the rail because I've been doing this such a long time. But if you're not secure in what you're doing or comfortable, sorry, take your speed square, line it up to the center of the rail, make a little mark, transfer your mark, and this is where you're going to be drilling to secure your railing into your post, in case you're wondering. Again, I'm using the same tip with the countersink and the bore, the bore bit. Okay, then I chase it with my 1/2 inch because I want to go at least half of the post.
Okay.
I'm not going to pilot drill because the oak will accept I'm going in the grain. I'm not going across grain.
Okay.
And
So you won't split it.
so it won't split.
Okay.
I mean, if it's really dry, it will split, but not this type of rail style. And this screw, it'll just pull it in. And you want to get it centered. So we're just going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the rail close to the post, or you could use a vice grip clamp and pull it. But I'm just going to do this by hand.
Okay.
This corner into the sheetrock, and by doing so I drill at a little angle to make sure I'm going into the stud. I give this a little pull, make sure it's tight. I glue my little return in here, then I'm going to put my plug in, but put a little bit of glue on the top and bottom here, and then just sneak that in there like that, and that should be. I'm going to actually get a different plug. Okay. Okay, that's that. So now I have to secure the round baluster to the railing that I drilled, because right now they're all right, they're loose. Make sure that they're straight for one.
And seated.
And seated. And then you nail, there's a little bead underneath the bead of the rail. There's a little flat spot right here. And you're gonna try to get your nail, brad nail, from here up into this baluster to keep it from moving. And by doing so, you have your nail gun at an angle to shoot up, not straight.
Yep.
And then you just go ahead. Check to see if the balusters are tight after you got done nailing them and you didn't miss one. Take your hand and just run it.
Do the old piano.
And that sounds solid.
Yep.
If it made a dinging sound,
Yep.
they'll be loose.
Yep.
And that's how you check them in your house, on a job, wherever you are, and you want to say, oh, look, I got something to show you. So now what we have to do is determine this post, where this post is going to sit. So everything rail-wise has to be in a straight line. So in order to figure out where this post is going in a straight line, you have to find the center of your top post so nothing's off center and shifted. So again, it's 3 1/4 inch post. You have an 1 5/8 center point. You use your square. You take your square and you bring it down to where you're working, which would be here. And that's your center. You transfer it down here, and that's your center line from that post. So now to determine over here, you can come down, Bob. Ready?
Good.
So now you want to find where the edge of this post is so everything's in line. So instead of doing this and trying to play with your post, which is on the edge of your stair nosing, the bull nose, you could do that and then scribe a line, or you can take your level, lay it on your treads, and just transfer the line up, and that will give you your edge of your post.
Makes sense, yep.
Okay, so then you take your square again, and that's where, this is the corner that you're going to cut out to put your post. But we are going to put this post sitting on top of this lowered landing. We're not going to drop it down. So we're just going to scribe this and cut this out and have it sit on top of this, because this lower landing nosing is sticking out about 1/4 inch past the stair.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do next. This out. What I normally do is, if the post goes on a corner and it's perfectly in line with your block that you cut, your template, it's normally 38 inches, again, from the shoulder of the post to the base, and then whatever the drop is.
Right.
So if the drop is 8 1/4 or 8 1/8, you add an 8 1/8 from your 38.
Just like we did up here.
Just like you did up there. But if you think about it like this, if the post is placed further back of the step, if you go 1 inch back, you go 1 inch higher. So then it'll become 39 inches.
Okay.
Because that'll compensate the height of your rail, which would be, you would have to be in code. Okay? And if you go back, meaning further, you would have to go lower.
Lower, yeah.
So instead of it being 39, if you go an inch forward, it would be 37. Okay?
Yep.
So what I normally do to be safe, because sometimes you have a 9-inch run, sometimes you have a 10-inch run, which changes the rake pitch of your stairs, I cut it long. I take a spare piece of wood and measure my height to make sure I'm within code. So to be safe, that's what I do.
Okay.
So we'll do that. So I cut the bottom of this post to where I mentioned at the extra inch that I added from 38 and then the 8 1/8. Okay. So now what I'm doing, making sure it's plumb, which is there. I take a scrap piece. If you're doing this at home, take a scrap piece and I cut the angle. So on 8 1/8 rise, the pitch should be 40 degrees on your saw. So this is cut at a 40-degree angle, which would be the rake pitch of the rail. So then you plumb up from the nosing of your tread to the top of the rail, And right now I have 35 1/4 inches to the top of the rail, and I have about 1.5 inches from the top of the post, which would be the reveal, which will make it look the same as the reveal as the top, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So now, because we determined that and everything lines up, we could notch this post down here to accept. We could notch the post to accept the riser and the stringer.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The height on the rake, Bob, is 34 to 39 in residential. I like going 35.5. Again, if somebody puts carpet on the stairs, you're still within code. In New Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is anywhere else.
Okay.
Okay? So that's your notch.
Mm-hmm.
You got to cut out
Yep.
to fit right here.
Yep.
And then we screw it and
Yep.
attach it that. So what I know that I need about 1.25 inches here and about 1.25 inches here, and it's going to be covered. My cut is going to be covered with the bull nose of the tread. So I don't even mark it with my square because I know where it has to be.
Nice and clean. Nothing wrong with that at all.
This right in the pocket, nice and tight.
Wow.
On both sides, clean. Yep. Take a look at it.
Yeah. Looks good.
Yep. So then we just got to glue it and secure it the same way with the 3-inch screws that I like using.
Yep.
And
Get your drill bits.
that's it. Okay. You ready, Bob?
Yep.
I like to drill at an angle so the screw, even though I'm using screws, they bite more instead of having a straight.
Yeah, to get a little more traction.
Yeah. I just like doing that. I guess when to put one screw, 2 in the front or 2 in the side, and then 1 in the front, just to get that extra strength. But again, it's tied in with the L angle, so it really isn't going to go anywhere. So because I live in the woods,
yeah, it's easy to charge.
I cut the trees down whenever a tree falls or whatever, and then I use that. See, when you drill at an angle too, Bob, the plug goes in at an angle. If you don't put the plug in at an angle and you go in straight, you're going to have a gap.
Yeah, I get
You're going to have to use putty.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. Cut the rail at the pitch, which is about 40 degrees on the saw. So once this is set, you butt it up to the other post, which is, if it's plumb, the angle shouldn't change.
Right.
So you're just basically lifting it straight up in the position of where we need it.
Yeah, as long as the newel posts are plumb, you should be.
As long as the newel posts are plumb and the top rail is plumb and the rail is scribed to the pitch of the stairs, we should be good.
Yep.
There's my mark. I'm setting my saw at 40 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I was right. I need to cut this more of an angle. It's open at the top, so I got to cut this at a 41. For some reason, maybe the stairs are leaning and it's throwing it off. But this cut down here,
That's beautiful.
is nice and tight.
Yep.
So I got to recut this. And then we're going to lay out the balusters, drill them, and I'll show you how to do that. Cut the pitch at the top, cut the pitch at the bottom. Like I said, I left the top long in case I need to adjust if the post moved or shifted during the install. I checked the post is still plumb. I had to cut the top at a 42-degree angle, the bottom's at a 41-degree angle. So now, in order to check if you're within code, normally the top and bottom. So you check the bottom, right there, I'm plumb. There's my 35-inch mark right there. So probably 35 1/8, which is good. And then you come up here, you check this one at the rim of the nose right before it starts getting around. You make that plumb, and you are at 35 inches. So we got 35 symmetrically across. Okay, here's my, from here to here, I go 4. From that point, I go 8.5, and I do the same thing on the second step. 4 from the riser, 8.5 from the riser. That gives me my 4 balusters within 18 inches. So when you measure from, again, from point 1 to point 2, you got 4.5. And then you measure from second point to third point, you should have 9. So if you measure, which is 4.5, from there, take your square. You have to make sure you're plumb there. So from this point, my hands are in the way, plumb 4.5 from here to here, and you're plumb. So there's my mark. So everything is 4.5 inches apart. So it lays out perfectly on a 9-inch run. If you do a 10-inch run, you will have a 3 1/4 off the riser, 6.5 your center baluster, 9 7/8 off your third baluster, if you're doing a 10-inch run. So there would be 3 balusters per tread instead of 2 balusters per tread. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're plumbing straight up from my baluster point to the rail. And you just put a little mark on the railing, and that's where you're gonna drill.
This is old school before they had laser levels.
I do have a laser level, but
it still works.
If you want to do this sufficiently time saving, this is the way to do it. And I'll show you another reason why I do this with not using a laser level, but I'll show you when I'm done laying this out. So I just got done making sure my lines are plumb. So I take the rail off.
Oops.
And these are all my lines right here, okay, that I plumbed up.
Yep.
And then you take your line and you transfer it to the bottom. Come up here, just like that. So now, when you transfer everything and you lay it on the stairs, because we're going to drill it on the stairs. And the reason why I drill on the stairs, they do make a tool that you attach to the railing that you can adjust your angle of what you're drilling. So for this instance, it's a 41 degree angle, but I'm not going to use that tool. I'm going to use the stairs as my angle.
And just drill down vertical on it.
Right, and I'm going to drill vertically down, and what's going to help is this line that I made plumb with my level. So if I happen to be off a little, I can eyeball my drill to be in line with my plumb line to keep that straight. That's another reason why I plumb instead of using a laser level.
Okay, I get that.
It just gives me that extra security. All right, so now I got my drill bit in, and I want to drill. I'm drilling 3/4 of an inch. The baluster is 11/16, so it gives me a little wiggle room, so we're not fighting to get the baluster in. And then when we're done, we're gonna nail it. But for the sake of this
Demonstration.
lesson, right?
Yeah.
I go about a 1/16 of an inch below my line. I get my drill started. And then, once I get my drill started, I stand it up. And I drill all the way down to the shoulders again. And that way, when you, let me stand this up. When you come down and you drill, the shoulders is covered. I know that I'm about 1.5 inches into the rail to accept my baluster.
Yep.
So that's why I use my plumb line. It lines up my drill.
Yep.
See how that lines up perfectly?
Yep.
It's in a straight line with
Yep.
that plumb line. And then I just drill like that all the way up. All right, so now we ended up drilling the top rail, drilling the landing treads, the stair treads. Now we're going to put in this baluster. This is a 39-inch baluster, which at 35 inches off the face of the tread, the 39-inch should work without cutting it. That's a secret that nobody tells you. So all you do is put the baluster up in the hole, slide it over, but don't forget you got to cut the pin. Slide it over, drop it in place. You don't have to cut your 39-inch baluster.
Wow.
You just cut your 36. The 39s are good. So if you're ever buying the balusters for the back of the stairs, buy 39. You don't have to mess with them. These balusters here are 39, which go in the back of the tread.
Yeah.
And these balusters are 36 that go in the front of the tread.
Yeah.
So the way I laid it out with the rail height, you don't have to cut the 39s. They go right in. The only thing you have to cut is the bottom pin. Now on the 36s, you have to cut the front. So I made a mark there. That's where you got to cut it. And we put the rail in the same height as the stair run, so the height didn't change. So that's where I got to cut all my 36 inches, and they should all fit in.
Okay.
So let's cut these and go inside and put them in. All right, so I'm putting some glue in here, Bob. And YouTube, just so you know, I like to make sure it firms up when we're done working.
Yeah.
And then I'll show you how to pop the balusters in. Oh, you might need to turn my air compressor back on.
Go.
Okay, so what I ended up doing is, instead of putting the post on the volute, on the bullnose, I'm going to put the post on the first step. That way it makes it secure. It's much more stronger application than putting it on the volute.
Right.
The other thing is it's in a straight line with the upper post, which would make this super strong. So therefore everything's tying in together.
Yeah.
And I already notched the post as I did this one, same principle as I did this upper post.
Yeah.
And I notched the step just like I did that post.
Yep.
So there you have it in a nutshell. So now and always check for plumb.
Oh yeah.
Always check for plumb. because these plugs are hard to come by.
Uh-huh.
So I try to use them twice.
Yeah, hard to come by. Right there.
They're hard to come by. You don't want to stop making plugs when you're in the middle of a job. Okay, so we're on the last section and I'm gluing the bottom. I got to cut the other balusters, the back ones, to go in because I use taller ones because of the spacing. Okay. All right, I just glued the balusters for the pins that we cut so they fit properly. So I am just going to put this section in here. These are the 36. And then on this particular section, because of the height of the rail was a little higher, I had to use a taller baluster, which is a 42-inch baluster, and I cut them. So they fit in perfectly as well. Just like that. And the only thing now we got to do is nail it. And we're done. So just want to do that. And that's it.
Okay, so that was a really good day. We had about an 8-hour day on a Tuesday. Really appreciate Harry coming over. He did a fantastic job on the stairs.
Well, thank you for the experience, Bob.
Yeah.
I've only been doing this like a couple weeks.
So, all right, until next time. Hey, you got any questions? Put it down in the comments section. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. So until next time on next project, thanks, Harry.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.